So, hello guys, my name is Youssef. I am marketing development lead at Lion Studios. And today we've been talking a lot about revenue and ad spend, revenue and investment, user acquisition. But at the end of the day, it all comes back to games marketability. At Lion Studios, one of our mission is to help game developers improve their games marketability and grow and scale their games. And that's good because today I came with quite a new solution to improve your game's marketability, and it is called marketing development. But first, let's see how we can assess a game's marketability. So as you can see here, our marketability framework is based on three different parameters. First one being the creative, second one, the team, and the third one is the execution. You can see the team and the execution, they're between brackets. Basically, it means that the creative is the most important part of all this framework. I'm going to speak about each parameter, beginning with the team. I'll let you take a look at the creative first. So, the team. Basically, one word to describe the team. When you see the creative, it should come to your mind within the first 3 seconds. And it should come intuitively. Usually, we tend to have the team related to the game's name. This game is called Gladiators in Position. So the second parameter is the execution. We're going to see some creatives with bad and good execution for the game Brutal Fighter. But basically, for the execution, we look at three parameters: mechanic, art, and pacing. The first one, the mechanic, is the most important one. The mechanic has to be clear and understandable for the user. Regarding the art, it should be equal or above the industry standards. For hyper casual games, it's not a big deal because usually we use stickmans and we have very low industry standards for hyper casual. But for other genre, it can matter as well as the mechanic. The third one is the pacing. So for those who don't know, the pacing of a creative is basically the amount of actions that are happening within a certain frame of time. Regarding the creative, we tend to see two different parameters. Is it clear and is it compelling? Is it clear? If it's clear, we should know how it is played. And we should basically know this with a screenshot. This means that if I pose the creative, me as a user, I can understand how the game is played. For the second parameter, the compellingness, it's regarding the why is it played. And here the why means the objective of the player. It can be long-term, short-term, or mid-term objective, but it has to be displayed in some way. Also, within the first 3 seconds, we should encapsulate all of this because the first 3 seconds are the most important ones for creative. Otherwise, we don't catch the user's attention, and you all know that's bad. So let's take a look at this creative here for Brutal Fighter. So I bet you guys doesn't understand the first part of the creative. Basically, we wasted our first 3 seconds. We lost the attention span of the user. The mechanic is not that clear on those 3 seconds. We are crafting some weapons, but it is too The windows are too small to be able to notice that we are crafting weapon. And this ad had a CPI of $1. Here is a good example of an ad for the same game. So as you can see, the ad is straight to the point. We don't have this first part where you are doing whatever. And the mechanic is clear. You got two opponents, they are fighting against each other. And also, it is a well-known concept, which basically everyone knows Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, Tekken, games like this. And the CPI for this is 0.63 cents, which is like practically half of the first one. So there are different levels of marketing, basically three. First one being recording raw gameplay on your phone and putting this video directly into the networks and testing it. The second level is what you guys call, you can call it marketing artists or PMM, and it's basically adding SFX or visual effects with some video editing tools. And the third level of marketing, which is the the topic I'm talking about right now, is to directly modify the Unity project and to record ads within it. And this is called marketing development. So modifying the Unity project, it allows us a lot of freedom in terms of creativity. Four different things. First one being, we can directly modify the art and the thematic of the game. We can easily add juiciness. We can create custom levels if we want to display some, if you want to put in faces on some mechanics. But the most important one is that we can create new mechanics directly and showcase them in the ad. So here's an example of the work of marketing development. If it loads. So the mechanic is seen here, the trap one, activating a trap with the rock falling on the opponent, it doesn't exist on the real game. Basically, it is marketing developers' work. They added it into the Unity project and they made a creative based on this mechanic, but they stayed on the same paradigm as the game is within. And the trap mechanic has a little bit more of depth to the game. The result being it dropped the CPI to 50 cents. So the process of making, the process of doing marketing development. First thing is to retrieve the Unity project. Usually in Lion Studios, we get the project's repository from the developers on Git. Then we check if the project is in a state where we can work on. Basically, we check if there are some errors on the console. And if so, we fix it. And the third, and maybe the most important stuff of this point, is to understand the architecture of the project, how it has been coded, where are the prefabs located, how can we modify the prefabs, if we should use some third-party softwares to work for on the Unity project. After that, what we do is straightforward, we analyze the data. We check if we have some previous tests, and we check what test has worked and each iteration, what impact it had on the several metrics, such as CPI, IPM, and CTR. I bet you already know this. Third point of the process is we work iteratively. As I said, we analyze the data, and regarding those data, we make iterations. Those iterations, we only change one metric at a time. We never change different metrics, otherwise we will never know what is working and what is not working. For instance, if we check the brutal fighter example, if we change the characters, the environment, and we add a new mechanic at the same time for the same creative, we will have no idea if it's the environment, the mechanic, or the character that had an impact. And also, we stay on the same paradigm as the game is already within. Otherwise, it can have bad impact on retention, and it tends to have some bad impact on CPI and IPM too, because when the player gets redirected to the ASO and they see that it's not the same game, they don't download it. As marketing developers, we tend to try to maximize our impact and effort ratio. For instance, some iterations are going to have high impact, visually speaking. Some others going to have low impact. But some iterations are harder to do than others. So as you can see here, the first thing we will try to do for a project is change its camera and its lighting, because it's really simple to do and it has a high impact. The worst thing you could do is change the animations as a marketing developer, because it takes a lot of resources. You gotta have animators, riggers, 3D modelers, and it doesn't have real high impact on the creatives. Sometimes it doesn't work. Right now, I'm presenting this marketing development stuff like if it was magic, and if you use marketing development to market your game, it's going to lower the CPI. But in fact, what marketing development do is that it unlocks the marketability potential of your game. It's not really a magic trick. Also, there are some games that cannot be marketed inherently regarding maybe their mechanic, or can be for some reason they don't market well. And sometimes some Unity projects, we cannot work on them. It's too hard, too complicated. So keep this in mind. One of our mission as marketing developers is to enhance the mechanic. I'll let you take a look at this creative here. So I actually forgot to put the CPI, but it was above $1. And the main problem with this creative here is that the camera is way too far, so we cannot focus on the actual action, what's happening. And also, the drawing mechanic is not clear enough for some users. So what we did is this. So the CPI for this one, it was below 60 cents. And we just centered the camera so that It is centered on the action and what's happening. And we added an arrow so that we can make the drawing mechanic a little bit more clear. It was very low effort. This creative, it take less than 30 minutes to do, and it cuts the CPI in half. So if you want to reach out and speak about marketing development, please feel free to do so. Here's my Lion Studios address. Here's my LinkedIn. And just before I end this presentation, I would like to thank my team. They couldn't, unfortunately, they couldn't make it here, but those are members of my team. They're hard workers. And I also would like to thank Uploving team, Lion Studios, for helping me open the marketing development department and growing it. Thank you very much for listening.
Again, I think we have time for like, maybe like 1, 2 questions. So it's late, but oh,
Hi, I'm just curious. Maybe I missed the audio on the graph, like high effort, low effort. Are you experimenting with music? Because some of the tests can improve like retention, especially in hyper casual games. It is really high impact in the music, the background music during the gameplay. Have you tried this? Have you some results? Or?
Yes, we do experiment with music, not with marketing developer department, but with another department, PMM department. The experience music, sound effects, it does have an impact on the creatives, but for the sake of the presentation, I kept it into visuals.
Do you maybe do the other way around, like using marketing learnings from all these tests to implement it back in the game? Both in terms of, changing, you were mentioning like how you can change color, like all of these factors, basically in creatives, and if you see something works really well, do you then feed it back to the product?
You mean if we see something is performing well in terms of CPI, we put it on the product?
Yeah. I mean,
I
rocks falling from the sky inside the game. Like if people are reacting well, why, and it seems fairly
so
easy to add. I mean,
the way we work in Lion Studio is that the developers, they are aware of the experiments we do on our business unit. If they do want to implement it on the game, they can. But usually, us as marketing developers, we don't think of the outcome of coding this, because this trap, you got, okay, it looks cool on the video, but maybe to program it, us, it takes us 2 hours, but for to make it on the game and that it actually work, it's going to take 7 days or 8 days, and usually we don't do it.
okay, thanks.
hey, thank you very much, Youssef. And of
you.
course, I really encourage you to reach out to Youssef after the presentation, especially that this day is over. You are the toughest ones and the strongest ones. So thank you for today. Just to remind, please keep budgets for tomorrow. I hope we'll see all of you, like at least majority of you tomorrow. And of course, thank you for today. And I think we should have some beer and some other stuff outside. So I think it's some good end of the day to finish again. I think everyone should have this OKR for the everyday, at least to get to know a few other people. Like, on one side, again, you can use the badges as the guidelines, to talk to the people from the same like area, but on the other side, you can do actually the opposite. Yes, so I think like a lot of innovations comes when you like once you are from the growth, you start to the people who are for the product, or like once you are from the data, and then you start to the people who work more with the business side of the game. I really again encourage you to spend as much time as you can on one side, talking to the people you know already, but on the other side, like exploring the other set of people you haven't met yet. So thank you, and let's spend rest of the day with some good time.